Here's a couple pages from the chapter 1 of the first book of 10 book series that I'll be releasing later this year. I'm going to get it out to you and give me some title ideas and some feedback, okay? The weight of the air. The smell of the hospital antiseptic always tries to promise cleanliness, but it never quite covers up the scent of finality. It lingers in the back of your throat, sharp, cold. That was the first thing that hit me when I walked into her room. The machines were doing most of the talking by then, a rhythmic sterile hum punctuated by the steady, slow beep, beep of the monitor, each one like a countdown. The woman who had been in my entire universe The woman who had been an entire universe of noise, chaos, love, and fierce opinion now looked so agonizingly still beneath the thin white sheet. I took her hand. Her skin felt like fragile parchment, cool against mine. It's strange how a single touch can pull a trigger in your mind. Holding her hand right there in the quiet gravity of those final days didn't just lock me into the present, it shattered it. Suddenly, I wasn't just in that room in Princeton, New Jersey, watching the seconds tick away. The coldness of her hand became the coldness of a stone mausoleum wall from years ago. The sterile air dissolved into the heavy, rich aroma of a kitchen filled with family, decades deep, echoing with laughter and arguments that felt like they would last forever. My whole life didn't flash before my eyes. It rushed back to find me. The oncology floors I'd managed, the roads I'd driven, the families we built, and the ghost we tried to outrun. It all collided right then and there at the edge of that bed. The monitor shifted. A long, unbroken tone began to fill the room. Before the screen went completely flat, I pulled out my phone and took a picture of her heart rate on the monitor. I wasn't exactly sure what that was for, but today that exact line is permanently inked into my forearm. That tattoo starts with a heart and flows into her heartbeat and ends in an angel wing. Etched beneath it are the words, "You were there for my first breath, and I held your hand with your last," along with the date that everything changed, 12/28/18. I swallowed hard, squeezed her fingers one last time, and realized, to understand how we got to this room, to this exact silence, we have to go back to where the air was thick and the stories were just beginning. This quiet room wasn't where the fight began. It was just where the dust was finally settling. The real battle was everything leading up to it. The chaotic, exhausting war of navigating life, family, friends, and eventually aggressive cancer treatments, and a cold medical system that required me to be her absolute shield. I had to become her voice when she was too weak to speak, her advocate when doctors spoke in detached statistics, and her fierce protector against an illness that was trying to strip away her dignity piece by piece. Every single day on those front lines meant making impossible decisions, balancing hope against hard realities, and forcing myself to be the strong one, the unwavering anchor, even when I was breaking apart inside. It wasn't just about managing medications or tracking symptoms. It was an emotional combat where giving up was never an option. Standing by her bed now, holding her hand, I knew that every scar from that battle was worth it, because being her protector was the most sacred duty I would ever carry. The click of my door unlocking that morning was the loudest sound in the world. Breaking the frozen silence of the parking lot, I climbed into the driver's seat and gripped the steering wheel and just stared through the windshield as the engine cranked to life. The dashboard clock glowed a cold, unblinking 3:45 a.m. For months, this car had been my mobile headquarters, the place where I made frantic phone calls to family, insurance companies, and doctors, where I cried out of sight of hospital windows and pumped myself up to face another round of bad news. But now, turning the key and pulling out into the dark New Jersey streets, the vehicle felt entirely different. It felt empty. As the tires hummed against the asphalt, my mind naturally drifted backwards, caught in the headlights of everything we had just survived. The dark, quiet road felt like a mirror for the long medical maze I'd been navigating as my mother's sole shield. I thought about those aggressive treatments, the oncology appointments, where I had to sit up straight and project absolute certainty and practically block the doctors from treating her like another chart. I remembered the fierce, exhausting weight of translating cold statistics into words of hope for her, masking my own terror so she could just focus on fighting. With every mile that passed, the reality of being the family anchor pressed down harder. On the front lines, adrenaline keeps you moving. You don't get the luxury of shattering when people are relying on you to hold the sky up. But in the quiet confinement of the driver's seat, with only the hum of the heater filling the space, the armor began to crack. I wasn't just driving home. I was trying to navigate the first few miles of a completely unknown future, and only carrying her unbreakable spirit with me into the dark. That unbreakable spirit, that was the only map I had left. As the highway stretched out ahead of me, blending the dark sky into the shadow of the Princeton tree lines, I realized that the battle hadn't actually ended when her heart stopped beating that morning. It had just changed shapes. The fight was no longer about foreclosed homes or jealous siblings, no longer holding back an aggressive illness or demanding answers from a detached medical system. The new fight was figuring out how to honor her by living through the wreckage left behind, figuring out how to live in general. Being the front lines for my mother meant I had absorbed every blow right alongside of her. And that kind of fierce, protective love doesn't just disappear when the room goes quiet. It stays in your blood. It becomes part of your gravity. As I finally turned down my street and saw the dark silhouette of the house ahead, I took a deep, heavy breath of the night air. I was walking into a different world now, a world without her. But I wasn't walking into it empty-handed. I carried her strength, her resilience, and every single beat of her heart right there with me, and I didn't even know it.